All right, everybody, welcome back to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And we'll be getting a little more into 26 shirts because we got a rare sneak preview of the new shirt coming down the line. And I know I'm excited about it, but we'll mention that a lot more later in the show. Hopefully everybody's good out there in the listening land, simply because there is a massive heat wave moving across the country. So take care of yourselves, drink lots of water. And hey, remember, people, beer is not good for rehydration. However, I still suggest you drink lots of it. In any case, Chris and Ben are with me this evening, and we are going to break down the defensive positions for the Steelers as we are literally 1 week away from the black and gold being on the fields of St. Vincent College in Latrobe. And by the way, it is St. Vincent College. Common error for people to say St. Vincent's. So there, I just did something that will help all of you now. Any case, Chris, how's it going? Looks like he's going to grab some water. So I guess I'm going to go with Ben. Ben, how's things for you tonight?
Well, I'm not drinking water, so.
Well, I would expect not.
I'm doing okay. I'm going to go work out after this. Chris,
good for you.
Chris already did that. He has the advantage of having the afternoons off, so he can go work out before we do the podcast. Bastard.
Well, he also has the advantage of tremendous youth compared to you and I.
Whatever.
Which always factors in, but
I don't want to use that as an excuse. That is
why are we slandering? Why are we slandering my youth?
Well, we were just discussing the fact that Ben was going to work out. You've already worked out. I got in a semi-workout today. I'm not going to call it a workout. That's for darn sure. But in any case, we are here for your entertainment, people. There's no doubt about it. Before we get into the positions, Ben, you brought this up just before we started recording. The Steelers have kind of a new sheriff in town, if you will, on defense in terms of Teryl Austin. And to our understanding, and this is something that we do have to confirm, but we are under the impression that Keith Butler will still call the defense. What do we expect, Ben, in terms of Teryl Austin's involvement with the Steelers defense?
My understanding is that Austin will have more input on the passing defense than he will, and specifically the DBs, but on the passing defense than he will on the run defense, which will still be entirely Keith Butler's purview. It makes sense that Butler would continue to call the defense because Austin's also going to have the additional role of being the quote-unquote replay coach who's keeping an eye on what's going on the field in terms of real-time challenges and questions that he can relay down to Mike Tomlin to talk to the officials about. It's not just going to be about replay. It's going to be about, hey, this guy's holding my guy, keep an eye on that kind of thing. So it makes sense that Butler would continue to call the plays themselves, but Austin's definitely going to have a role in designing the passing defense and scheming it. And in scheming it, he's going to be another coordinator on that staff, and he definitely is the senior defensive backs coach.
And we will get into a lot more of his role as kind of the replay assistant stuff. But, as many of you know, Mike Tomlin has not had a real good record when it comes to challenging plays with the old red flag thing. But we'll get into that in a later episode as we get closer to the season. Chris, what do you know about Teryl Austin? I mean, he's been around the NFL a little bit. I mean, are you high on this, slow on this? Are you kind of in that position? I mean, where are you with Teryl Austin?
I'm kind of glad he's around just because of the kind of divisional workload in the defensive backfield. So each coach can focus on their selected group. Will make it easier. Smaller classrooms always produce better results. So I like that aspect. And then I also like that he's going to help out with challenges because I mean I don't know what his record is, overall with being in that area, but Tomlin needs help, and if we can get another set of eyes on this, that would be great. So I'm a Mike Tomlin fan, and it's pretty well known. But one of his faults is by far definitely him challenging sometimes, and it just seems very desperate, or he seems to try to appease fans and appease kind of the whole fandom by challenging certain things where we just really know that he's not going to win them. So I'd rather not cost us timeouts, not cost time, not cost anything more negative than what we need. But Teryl Austin's actually from Sharon, Pennsylvania. He's from probably about 15, 20 minutes from where I grew up, so that's pretty cool. He's been on the defensive side of the ball since 1991, so he's got a lot of experience. I'm with it. I'm with this move.
Yeah, I think overall it's good, and I think for the reasons you both kind of explained in terms of what he'll bring, gives the position guys, coaches a little bit less to have to deal with. And as you mentioned, Chris, you can shrink down those meetings, those classroom sessions and stuff to where you have less guys and guys can learn a little bit better. So, I like it. We'll see where we are by week 6, by week 8, by week 12, that kind of stuff. But I like it right now. Let's move to the actual positions here, and we'll start on the defensive line, and then we'll kind of move back in the defense from there. We know the obvious. We know that Cam Hayward's there. We know that Javon Hargrave is there. And, if you've heard some of our previous shows over the last month, we talked a lot about Javon Hargrave in terms of getting a contract extension. And we won't go there tonight, but it's definitely something you want to go back and check on. And then, of course, Stephon Tuitt, which I think all three of us believe he has to play better. He has to play more to his salary, the amount of money he's earning. He's really not lived up to that. But then after that, of course, you have Tyson Alualu, who I think has done a nice job as a reserve. But, then it gets interesting. Ben, how many guys do we usually carry on the defensive line, first of all, and who is going to try to fit in to those final couple of spots?
Usually they carry 6.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think that Mr. Buggs has got an advantage as being a recent draft choice. He's a guy that
knows Carl Dunbar too.
Yeah, that Dunbar's got some familiarity with, and he probably made the call on bringing him in. The first 3 spots obviously are solidified. There's not anybody that's going to challenge Hayward, Javon Hargrave, or Tuitt for their spots, even though we criticize Tuitt all the time on this show because he has this immense potential that's unrealized. He still isn't going to be challenged for his job. Tyson Alualu is probably your number 4, which leaves 2 spots open. My guess is that's going to be Buggs and Dan McCullers, who isn't outstanding, but, he can play nose in a spot. He's very difficult to move. He just doesn't move very well from the spot.
He's a space eater,
Yeah, that's it.
And I think the sad part with McCullers is we've all seen him have that one play where he just destroys an entire offensive line in front of him, and it's like, where's that? And we've all been asking that question for some time. Chris, are there any of these other guys? Because, the Steelers have pretty close to a dozen defensive linemen in camp. I mean, Ben mentioned Isaiah Buggs, rookie at Alabama. I mean, this kid Gilmore from LSU. Of course, Mr. Hooks is back. You got a few others. I mean, is anybody in there potentially going to push for a spot?
They signed Connor Sheehy, guy out of Wisconsin. Winston Craig, he's from the AAF, I believe. Casey Sales is a guy that I'm kind of intrigued with. Only 1 year under his belt, but he's a guy who I went back and watched his tape just a little bit, and I like what I saw. So I think that he can maybe push a little bit, but he's more of non-versatile 5 tech. So, you're going to have to show versatility if you're going to be in the back end. And McCullers doesn't, but I think that he can make a push, perhaps. If they want McCullers, I think he's only really good for being a run stuffer on goal line situations. And even then, his inconsistency is just very off-putting. I'm a guy who just loves consistency. You know what you're going to get when they're on the field. They're going to give it their all. This is that. Inconsistency like Jordan Berry, Dan McCullers, it's just you're always on your toes when they're on the field, and that's just not a good feeling as a fan. You want something a little bit more stable.
That's a good point.
And I'm just not with that jive. So I would like him to be dethroned, if you want to use those words. But I'm not stoked past Bugs, to be honest. Casey Sales, if he can make a push, that'd be great. But they did bring a good amount of bodies to
they did
this depth, which is good to see. We wish we could do that for other positions, but they seem to bring in a lot of guys. So that's kind of telling. It should be an under the radar kind of battle in camp.
Yeah, I think so too. I think those top 4 spots seem to be very solid, and then you've got Hooks. You figures got the inside track for the 5th, and then who's going to fit in there. And I agree with you. You've got to have versatility. If you're just a one trick pony, it definitely does not help you in that respect.
Yeah, but we all said that last year, specifically about Dan McCullers and the fact that he was being outplayed seemingly in the preseason by Levon Hooks.
Yep.
And I really thought they should have kept Hooks over McCullers, and they kept McCullers.
Agreed. Yeah.
So, this is one of these things where they've got a specific role in mind for every slot along the defensive line. And one of those guys is going to be that space eater who comes in goal line situations and is just difficult to run around. And that's the thing that Dan McCullers does. And he is a one-trick pony. He doesn't do anything else. I mean,
no.
Hit the nail on the head before, Mark, when you're talking about it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's just on a 1-year pretty minimal contract, isn't he?
No, he's on a 3-year deal now.
McCullers is?
Yeah.
Holy shnikes, I didn't realize that. I might have to come up for here.
Yeah, it wasn't a very – I mean, it's an easy deal to cut, but, no, they signed him to a long-term deal. Is it 2 or 3 years? I'll look right now.
Too. I need to look this up before I have
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They could cut him tomorrow.
And it's not a big deal.
It's not a big thing.
Yeah.
I missed this.
Let me I want to transition because I know the linebackers always take up a lot of conversation. And
let me see. No, it's a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Okay.
It's 2 years, but they gave him $250 to sign, which isn't, that's not anything that they would sneeze about cutting a guy over. I mean, basically that's hey, you've been a loyal guy. We're going to bring you back for 2 more years at low salaries. Here's a little bit of an advance on that salary. Here's $250. He's going to schedule to make $1 million this year and $1.5 million next. So he's a real easy cut if they decide they want to cut him.
Right.
Mark, if they cut him, you have to invite him over for dinner and then cash in your pension to pay for all the food.
Yeah, the boy can eat, I'll bet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've heard those stories. Yeah. But defensive line is what it is, and I think that's really the question: is McCullers even going to be around? And if he's not, then who's going to be filling his void, so to speak? Guys, let's get to the outside linebackers because we know we're going to have some conversation here, and so I want to make sure we get to it. TJ Watt, phenomenal, great draft pick. He's done great on and off the field. Okay, we don't need to mention him anymore. Bud Dupree, we know, is in his 5th-year option year. He's making over $9 million this year. I wrote a little piece as I self-promote here, just about what the future is, because one way or another, he's really not coming back. I mean, if he has a huge year, he's going to price himself out of what Pittsburgh will pay him. And if he has a crappy year, Pittsburgh's going to want to get rid of him anyway and not want him around. So
there's a possibility that he could come back. And
there is, and I did put that in
advocate here for a minute, and just and that's that if he's slightly above average, if he gets like
7 sacks,
7 or 7.5 sacks, they're going to be like, oh yeah, okay, well we'll bring you back at a kind of a medium dollar figure, which will undoubtedly piss off a lot of fans.
Oh yeah,
but $1 million a sack.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that seems to be Ian's rule, and I think he's probably right. Yeah. Which means that this year Bud is dramatically overpaid. But I kind of find myself, hoping that isn't the case, but you never know.
Well, is there any way? I don't know. That's not the right way to say it. I mean, Chris, you'd love to see Ola Adeniyi take that over, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, that's my prediction. That's my hope. That's my dreams. That's my eggs in that basket. If he can prove that he is at least decent in coverage, I think he at least overtakes Chick for sure. Chick is very cuttable before next year, and it's actually an encouraging cut if you look at the his contract. Oh, yeah. So I'm liking Ola. I'm liking him more for the future. I think if he could really just master his hip movement and his flexibility, his side on the sideline. He's got the IQ. I mean, he's a smart guy. If he can just, with that flexibility, get him to that spot just a little bit quicker, he could turn it into someone that you can play on 3 downs and not have to sub out, and who can probably get you around 8 sacks at least. That's kind of my, that's my hope for him in his first year as a starter if it comes to that. But I really hope that by the bye week that we're seeing Ola in the starting lineup, and we're very encouraged. We got 2 pass rushers off the edge. We've got Hargett at the middle. We've got Hayward coming off. Tuitt's healthy, and he's causing havoc. We have Bush coming out with speed. We have Vince Williams thumping. Just it's a lot to be encouraged for that with that front 7 if those things come to fruition, and that's what I would love to see. I would just love to see it.
So we're all fans of Chick.
No, we are. Hard pass.
I couldn't say that with a straight face. Look, Anthony Chickillo is a guy. He was a defensive end. They had him drop a ton of weight. He's become an outside linebacker. He nobody argues that he's really, really good on special teams. But as an outside linebacker in the Steelers system, he just doesn't do anything for us. And the fact that the Steelers continue to kind of make him that top reserve is troubling because the 3 of us don't see it. And I don't know that many others do either. So we talked about Ola Adeniyi. But who else is going to play that outside position? I mean, Sutton Smith, they're already messing around with him on as an H-back, fullback type thing. I mean, he played an edge rusher in college at Northern Illinois. But, I mean, when you look at his size and stuff, I mean, is there a spot for him anywhere, Ben, to play with this defense?
Maybe. But let's back up here a quick minute on
Sure.
two points. Chris mentioned that it's an easy cut to cut Chickillo next year. It is. If Chickillo is on the roster next year on the 3rd day of the league year, which is on or about, say, March 18th.
Yeah.
He gets a $500,000 roster bonus, okay, which will basically guarantee they're going to keep him and pay him another $4.5 million for next year. If they cut him before that day, they save $5 million against the cap.
Ooh,
okay.
Like that.
So basically, the idea there is to force them to make a decision long term about whether or not they want to keep Anthony Chickillo. I think this was, and I'm going to tip my hat again to the Patriots. They saw a rival who had a problem with depth at outside linebacker, and so they signed him to, or they made an offer to him. They didn't sign him to anything. They made an offer to him and said, hey, we'll pay you this much, but they didn't make it so high that the Steelers wouldn't swoop in there and match.
Right.
They just overpaid him by a little bit on a 2-year deal. Then it's not a whole lot of risk there. I mean, basically they could take him in and they could work with him for a year and pay him $3 million, or they can force the Steelers to overpay for a reserve outside linebacker, which is what they did. The Steelers were in a position where they didn't have much depth because what they had behind Chicolo was Ola Adeniyi and Keon Adams, who's now gone. Who's now gone. And that was it. So basically they had to make a decision. And when you got a gun to your head, and it's like, well, it's an affordable deal, we should probably just go ahead and do it. You do it. But yeah, he can be cut. I wanted to spell one other thing. And we've talked about this on this show before. I'm surprised Mark doesn't remember, but
I might when I hear it.
Before Chicolo was drafted, he was already down to 263 from 290 where he played at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers didn't have him lose a bunch of weight. He'd already lost the weight. He plays now at about 253, 255 in that range.
I thought he was heavier than that when he came in.
No, he was 263 on the day of the draft.
Okay.
And I'd have to look at what his combine weight was, but it wasn't much more than that. It was like 267. Okay.
Yeah, I would have to defer back to that too.
Okay, so the Steelers didn't say to him, hey, we need you to lose a bunch of weight. He lost a bunch of weight because he doesn't have long enough arms to play defensive end. He's not a guy who can in the NFL play with a hand in the dirt. He doesn't have long enough arms to fight with offensive tackles. He's not that guy. Okay, now, Sutton Smith. Do I think he can play defense? Maybe. I don't know. I have the same questions about him that I do Ola. I think that Ola is probably, honestly, their second best pass rusher behind TJ Watt. And he's, based upon what I saw last year, he's solid in pursuit, which is something you need to be at outside linebacker. And he's not quite there yet, setting the edge in the NFL. And he's not great in coverage, or wasn't. That's a year ago.
Yeah.
A lot of things change over the course of a season. So I'm hoping to see improvements in those two areas this year. Sutton Smith, same questions. I'm sure he can pursue. That guy is fast.
Yes, he is.
I think that he can be a finesse pass rusher. But can he do those other things you need your outside linebacker to do, your edge player in the Steelers defense? Can he set the edge? Can he cover? I don't know. So we'll see. I think he's going to have a role regardless on the team.
Oh, definitely.
As a core special teams player, which is awesome. You look at the guy and you're like, yeah, okay. But then they also brought Ulysses Gilbert in, and I kind of wonder what he can do. And I look at both those guys and I'm like, they could play inside outside. Either one of them could. So you got some
Gilbert
there. You got some depth there at linebacker that you didn't have last year that I'm pretty excited about, honestly.
No, I am too. And Gilbert is kind of like this forgotten guy. I mean, everybody was talking so much about Sutton Smith and obviously Devin Bush that Gilbert is kind of this forgotten dude. But when we profiled him prior to the draft, we all were kind of excited about what he could potentially bring. So he's definitely somebody to keep on the radar. You are listening to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And you still have just a couple of days to get the Believin' shirt that they have right now, not based on Le'Veon Bell, but Mr. Josh Bell, the guy that hits dingers. The guy that hits dingers. I love that kid. Remember that video from the Little League World Series? I hit dingers. And it's a great shirt. And $8 from everyone that is sold goes to a very, very important cause. And we also got a little preview of the shirt that's coming out on Monday morning, midnight. And all I'm going to say is it's a Pittsburgh Steelers themed shirt, and I think it's very original. I think it's cool, and I'm excited for it. And I can't really say anything more than that, or Del Reed will hunt us down.
Right.
And probably
it's a very cool shirt, and it
is. But he swore
we can preview a little bit of it. It's Devin Bush
He's got your address, man. He's coming for you now.
It's Devin Bush themed, and it's a really cool shirt, and I think you guys are going to be excited by it, and you should check this out as soon as it comes out. It's a really great design.
I'll tell you what it is. It's I haven't even seen it. No one shows.
No, you don't have. It's a great shirt. Let's just put it that way.
It's cool as hell.
It is, and the little tweaks that were made in it are awesome.
No, it's a great design. Yeah. I think this is the best one they've done in a long time, and I'm excited about it myself.
I do too. Anyway, let's get back. Let's move to the inside linebackers, guys. From what I've heard, we've drafted this really speedy kid who just turned 21 today, I believe. Devin Bush. Yep. I hear he's going to be good, or at least they think so. My question, Chris, to you is, how much does Vince Williams see the field? And explain maybe why he sees it more than we think. And I think you know what I mean by that.
Well, they play two different positions. Vince Williams plays, he plays the max, or sorry,
the buck.
The buck spot. Yeah. He is going to be, man, it's tough because we don't really know what exactly Mark Barron was brought in for. We don't know exactly what he was brought in for. It seems to be that he was brought in to play the MAC in case we didn't get a linebacker top heavy in the draft. That said, Vince Williams is going to have to prove that he's not a complete liability in coverage if Keith Butler doesn't put him on goddamn wide receivers again. It's not Vince's fault. It's not Vince's fault. Can we just say that real quick?
It's not Vince's fault that he can't cover a number one wide receiver
who happens to line up in the slot.
Yeah, who happens to line up in the slot because he plays for a smart offensive coordinator.
Yeah. No, we love Vince. It's just, but
I love Vince.
Yeah.
He needs to get back to his former glory of rushing the passer. I don't know if they're going to do that anymore just because of how good Devin Bush is. But at the same time, Vince Williams in the A-gap is tough to block. Even on you're just shooting that A-gap. He's just so strong. Yeah. He knows how to get to the quarterback in a straight line. A la not Bud Dupree. He can get to the quarterback quick. He can cause havoc. He can make the quarterback throw the ball quicker. I like Vince in the A-gap. I really do. I just don't know what his role is now in that area with Devin Bush, because Devin Bush had similar success.
I think that, and this is just kind of to piggyback on what you just said, is that they're still going to run that cross blitz where, basically what they used to do with Shazier was they'd run Vince through first, knowing that he was the stronger player, and they'd run Shazier around second, knowing he was the faster player. And you got to kind of pick your poison. And people would either stop Vince and open up a window for Shazier to get in, or they would
fire X.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or they would try and block Shazier, which would give Vince an opportunity to nab a sack. And it was very difficult to beat. And I agree with you, Chris. I see it. I see that coming again this year, which is why he'll still play some passing downs.
Well, to be very, very clear, too, I think there's a misconception I've seen a lot of Steelers fans have, and Chris, you alluded to this. Mark Barron does not really play the same position as Vince Williams. I mean, I think I've even seen some of the journalists, the Steelers journalists, talk about, well, Vince Williams is in trouble with Mark Barron there. They don't really play the same position there. Barron, as you said, was brought in case they couldn't get a Devin Bush. So that's the situation. And I just want to make that clear because I think some fans are under that impression. Now, I'm not saying that you wouldn't see Barron and Bush on the field at the same time. That's not impossible.
I think we need to bear in mind, no pun intended, excuse me.
Sure.
We need to be aware of the fact that when Barron showed up for mandatory minicamp and weighed in, he was 216.
Yeah.
216 pounds. They asked him to play lighter this year than he played in LA last year. I think that gives us a hint about what they're going to do with him this year. And he's going to play linebacker, but he's going to be a dime backer / safety, which is what they wanted Mr. Burnett to be last year, and he was not.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I just think that needs to be clarified that we're talking about two very different things here. And yeah, thanks for pointing out the part about his weight. I mean, at 216, you are not playing consistently at linebacker. There's just no way. And Chris, anything else on the inside guys? I mean, Tyler Matakevich, we know about his special teams prowess, but I mean, he's got to be getting on thin ice at some point here. We talked a little bit about Ulysses Gilbert. I mean, who knows what they're going to do with him? I mean, what else do you see happening there, or have we covered the bases?
Tyler Matakevich, I'm pretty sure he leads the team for the past couple of years in special teams tackles. That's going to be tough to be thrown just because of how good that is, just because of how good he is there.
Excellent point.
Yeah, it's tough to replace it. You don't know what you're going to get out of Gilbert or Sutton Smith, Justin Lane. Any of these guys on special teams that you're putting in. You don't really know what you're getting. You know what you're getting with Matakevich on special teams, which is valuable. And I'm pretty sure Danny Smith is going to be pounding the table for him to be on teams. We might see a good amount of inside linebackers kept, and for different reasons.
No, I think it's a great point. He is just great on special teams.
It could be like one of those Bill Cowher years when Cowher would keep like 10 linebackers.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, what are you guys do with all these guys? And he put them all on special teams duty to develop them. And, he was 2.5 deep at every spot. And it was just like, wow, dude. Okay. If that's what you want to do. And this could be another year like that. I mean, Chris is definitely onto something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the outside guys we talked about, you look at the inside guys, you look at the rookies. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a long way to go here in training camp and stuff, but it's certainly headed that way. Let's move over to the safety position, guys, because I know that's been a little bit more on our agenda than the cornerbacks were, and if we don't get to them tonight, we'll certainly get to them again soon. Where is this team, Chris, with safeties in your mind?
In shallow water, if I can make an analogy with that.
Certainly. It's a puddle.
Real quick, if Sean Davis goes down, we have no true free safety. Nope. That's worrisome. We would personally, would like to see Cameron Kelly kind of take a step forward to be the backup free safety and just hone on that. So the drop off isn't extremely deep with a guy. Remember, like Will Allen would come in and just absolutely have no clue what he was doing. That's not what you want. You want a guy with some knowledge of the position, who's been there at least through camp. If Sean Davis goes down, we are screwed. I'll say that. I think. And then behind Edmonds, who do you have? You have rookie PJ Locke, UDFA. You have nobody.
Locke is more known for being a hitter than a cover guy.
Yeah, I mean, what do you have? That's tough to swallow, especially with a guy like Teryl Austin out there. You would really like to get someone like that into the mix where you have veteran presence back there. Because Davis and Edmonds are both young. You have a guy who has a knack for turning the ball over, who's good in coverage, good guy off the field. I mean, it only comes down to money, in my opinion, with him. He just can't seem. Is he a bad locker room guy? I don't know, because he can't seem to cling on to a team for more than 1 year. But he's very productive on the field. So. Besides the two starting safeties, it's gonna be something to watch for in camp. Who's gonna emerge? Who's gonna just fall out? Who's gonna show that they could turn the ball over? We know Cameron Kelly could do that. We know Teryl Austin can do that, and he's not even on the goddamn team. But who else can do that? We know Devin Bush has had trouble with that. We know Steven Nelson can do that. We know Hayden could do that.
Yeah.
Davis doesn't do that, and Edmonds doesn't do that so far.
Brian Allen.
Well, now
that's a shadow right there.
Well, he's listed as free safety, isn't he?
On the team's official depth chart, he's listed as a free safety. That's correct.
Right. Because on their official roster, he's still listed as a corner.
Yeah. But on the depth chart, he's been moved to free safety, which I think should have happened at the latest last year, preferably the year before. But, it occurs to me that what they're trying to do is find a spot for him. They want to keep him, but they don't like him that much at corner. So it's like, well, okay, let's try you at safety and see how things go. You alluded to PJ Locke before.
Yeah,
that guy cannot cover. If he makes a team at all, it's going to be special teams duty. He's a straight line. I'm sorry?
I really do want to see him on special teams, what he can do.
He's a hammer.
I agree. He's a hitter. He's a hitter. There's no question, and he, he's fearless.
But I feel like being, your coverage skills as a safety, I feel like they can really develop as young guys. I feel like they can really develop being in a system, being, Texas. When was the last time Texas had a good secondary? They're not coached very well. That's something to kind of put up there. And he's going to be with, I think Teryl Austin is the safeties coach now. He's going to be with him. He's going to be with a group of guys who are going to help him. I don't want to count guys out with something that they could improve on. And I think he could improve in this area. So, I would like to at least keep him on the practice squad if he doesn't, emerge. Just because I feel like being in coverage as a free safety, you have to be smart. And if he can prove that, then I think the rest will kind of develop and come along. Look at Dangerfield. He's stuck around. Look, what does he really offer? So I think PJ Locke is a better version and younger version of a Dangerfield. And Dangerfield's hung around for how long? Sounds like 3-4 years old.
Well, again, another good guy, but a guy who has hung on longer than any of us felt that he should.
Yeah.
He's really, as we call it, just an in-the-box safety, and he doesn't really offer that much outside of that. So I don't know.
Marcus Allen is a box safety in a league that doesn't use box safeties, and Jordan Dangerfield's a box safety in a league that doesn't really use box safeties. And, neither one of those guys are really known for their coverage ability. Nope. So it's not – things aren't good there. And it's a concern from my perspective because they signed and drafted a safety last year to address the problem, and they still have a problem.
Yeah.
And maybe they've got a plan. We talked before about Barron being lighter and being able to play, that third safety role in the middle of the field, kind of up against that box safety dime backer who can cover also on passing downs, and also play, the MAC should Bush go down for a short period of time or something along those lines. But it's a real concern and really makes me question what the hell Kevin Colbert is thinking when he approaches these things. Having Trey Boston out there, for example, granted, Boston's looking for a starter's role, but this late in free agency, wouldn't he just accept a role on a team?
Well, and at the same time, if I'm his agent, aren't I looking at the Steelers like, hey, Trey, this team is like one twisted ankle away from you being a starter anyway.
Right.
So why not look there? So to me, it's probably about the money. It's probably about how much PT, all those things. But then I would also have to, go back to what Chris was saying. The guy just can't seem to cling on anywhere. So is he a locker room presence that's a problem? What is it? Because when he plays, he produces. You can't argue the numbers. They are what they are. So I don't know. We're winding things down here on the show, and we're not going to get nearly as much time to talk about cornerbacks as we wanted. Chris, the one big variable there, of course, will be Justin Lane. Joe Hayden's got one side locked down. We assume Steven Nelson will come in and lock the other side down, but we have questions about, Mike Hilton. He's a exclusive rights free agent. He's doing all the right things right now, but is not signed his tag, if you would call it that. Wants a long-term deal, and we're not there yet. So, and then you got Justin Lane, the rookie who everybody seems to really, really like. So what is going to happen at the cornerback position?
It's pretty top heavy.
Yeah.
I think we're in a decently good situation just because our stars outside with Nelson, Hayden, it's a good situation there. Inside we have Hilton. That's what you want to see because that means that Hilton has played well in camp and throughout preseason and what have you. If someone goes down, let's just say it's Hayden, just because he has that kind of knack. We're looking at Justin Lane coming in to be the starter there. You don't really want that year one, but after reviewing his tape, I think that he can do it and do it in a pretty good fashion as long as he keeps his head up and makes plays, and that's what you're going to see from him. If Hilton does not kind of take hold of that slot cornerback spot because he was in the doghouse last year.
At the end of the year he was.
You're looking at Cameron Sutton at that spot, or you're looking at Nelson in that spot with Cameron Sutton or Justin Lane at the outside spot. You don't want to see that either. So if we stay healthy, we're looking good in that area. Artie Burns, I don't think he should be on the roster. We have a few guys that we brought in. Guy to Houston I really like. I think there's like one other guy. It's just not coming to me right now. It's gonna be something. We're doing something in camp. I'll drop my phone. To look for, and I really hope that a young guy emerges because you want to see that. So I'm looking at it. I can't wait for camp. And if I was the Steelers, I would sign a corner. If I could, around Cuts area, just a guy with experience in the back end, not Cody Sensabaugh, but someone like him who can have a veteran presence, who's reliable. That's what I would do, and not have this roster.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Ben. Some quick thoughts on cornerback situation.
I'm only going to talk about one person. If Artie Burns reports to camp on next Thursday. Thursday. If he reports to camp, he gets $800,000 as a roster bonus. If he's not cut before that day, that will guarantee he's on the roster this year. It will guarantee his salary because he's doing it like another $950 on top of that. But if they pay him $800, they're not cutting him. Okay. No. If it were me, I would cut him today and I would sign Cody Sensabaugh to take his spot. Right now. As a number 6 corner, as a number 5-6 corner, he's fine. I just don't want that to be a starter. I don't want that to be a starter. He knows the defense. He knows the players. He knows their tendencies. He knows how to fit in. It's an easy fit. It's less money they're going to pay Artie this year, and he's a number 5 or 6 corner. It's a good value. I do it without even thinking about it.
I don't sign bad players. It's just me.
Well, who else is out there?
I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's as good as what we want. But when
he's a backup, he's a backup.
Yes, he's a 5 or 6 corner, and But also real quick too, guys. We know that Kevin Colbert does not like to admit that he's made bad draft picks. I don't buy that. I don't know. I guess I think it's something that's been there. He's not I don't know. But my simple point is just that I think Burns gets his bonus. I think he's on the roster. And we'll hear all season long that, we're giving him a shot. We have faith that he can come through, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we're going to cut it right there. And next week's training camp, and I know we're very, very excited to get this baby rolling for the 2019 season. And we'll have all kinds of previews, predictions, all kinds of stuff, people. I'm running out of things to say. So for both Chris and Ben, this is Steel Dad, and I am signing off on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.